Welcome to Insights into Insurance with Tom Sorensen of Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is educational in nature and not intended to be acted upon without first consulting the appropriately licensed professional.
It's a Saturday morning, and that means it's time now for Insights into Insurance with Americana Insurance, and Tom Sorensen as well in the studio with us. And Tom, we also have some special guests.
Yes, we do. We have some very special guests with us, Mike. I'm pleased to introduce to you Freeborn County Sheriff Kurt Freitag and Freeborn County Emergency Management Director Rich Hall. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad that you could come in.
One of the things that has really sparked a lot of interest around the country, and that's active shooters, what we're going to talk about today. And of course, the recent Florida shooting down in Parkland, Florida, 17 students and faculty died. As we talk about active shooter, Kurt and Rich, let's talk about, there are some targets out there, soft targets, so to speak. It's not only in the schools, it could be in a business setting.
It can. It can be a multitude of different workplaces. It can be outdoor venues, like what we saw in Vegas. Basically, an event that brings a lot of people together where there's not a lot of protection for those people. I look at all of those as soft targets.
And that could include the Freeborn County Fair. It could be Harmony Park up in the Geneva area. Anywhere where you have a large group of people coming together is one of the areas for soft targets. And,
right.
As we talk about some of the indicators, probably the most important thing that we want to stress to the listeners, Kurt and Rich, this morning is if you hear something, you need to say something, and that involves coworkers, anyone really. If you hear something, you need to let the sheriff's office know.
Right. Sometimes, the things that people say or do can be taken care of by their first line leaders. But if the things that are said and done are interpreted as threats or crimes of violence, that's when people need to let me know, or their local law enforcement, the PD, sheriff's office. We can investigate and take appropriate steps.
So, Rich, what would you look at, like some indicators that would throw up red flags for somebody to contact the sheriff?
Well, I think first off, some social media and anything that we might be seeing on social media, somebody posting pictures of guns and things with themselves and talking about doing violence in a place like we saw down in Florida recently. Generally there's indicators that are out there: unprovoked anger, violent outbursts or aggression, increased use of alcohol or illegal drugs, paranoia. That everyone's out to get me type thing, and threats. This isn't over. You better watch your back, or I'm going to go in and blow up a school today, or that type of thing. So
okay, and a lot of times it could be students that witness this or see this, right? On social media, so they need to be aware that they need to say something, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and we see time and time again where the kids, the peers say, well, we knew he was acting a little bit strange, and we saw some posts, but we just didn't think it was going to happen, that they would really follow through with it. We need to take those threats seriously.
And I think one of the important things with Rich and Kurt here this morning on our Insights into Insurance is it can happen in Albert Lea. It can happen in Freeborn County. The glass walls need to come down. And prime example is a few years ago in Waseca County. There was an individual that, good for the lady that actually saw some activity taking place.
Right. Yeah, that headed off of a potential disaster, catastrophe.
Right.
And the Jonesboro, Arkansas shooting, that young man was originally from Spring Valley, Minnesota. His mother transferred down for work down to Jonesboro, Arkansas. And the shooter from Florida took kind of a play out of that young man's playbook, whereas he pulled the fire alarm and got everybody into the hallways and outside. The case in Jonesboro where 12 students perished, the kid pulled the fire alarm, ran outside, and then started shooting people as they came out of the building.
So as we talked this morning, it has happened. It just recently in Florida it happened. let's talk about what should people do, Kurt? If something like this would happen, what is their first step of calling, obviously, dialing 911 right away, calling the police, and what type of information would be helpful for those that are responding to an active shooter call?
Well, the first thing for people inside the building, whether it's a school or a workplace, is you have to remember and keep in your mind that it's up to you. It's up to you and the training that you've done as a school or as a workplace on how you're going to respond to an active shooter, because law enforcement's not there. You know, that was highlighted in the Florida shooting, where, you know, take that one deputy out of the picture who did not respond. Let's say that he wasn't there. For law enforcement to arrive, you're looking at about 6 minutes, you know, on average. And a lot of times, everything is said and done prior to 6 minutes. So when something like this takes place, students, employees, whoever's in that building has to realize it's up to you as an individual, and it's up to you to remember the type of training that you've had leading up to this event. So, you know, the big thing is run, hide, fight, right? And people need to identify how they're going to get out of the building. You know, don't leave that decision or that thought process up to when the event happens. Have something already pre-planned in your mind. You're going to go down whichever hallway, you're going to take the north door, whatever, to get out. If you're not able to get out, where are you going to hide? What kind of weapon are you going to grab? I know if I'm stuck in the building and I know I can't get out, and if I'm not armed, I'm going to be looking for something that I can grab as a weapon as I'm looking for my hiding spot. I'm going to have that hiding spot predetermined. So people have to think about that too. And then, you know, the last component, fight. If you know there's nothing you can do, you know, see if you can engage that person to at least
distract him,
knock him back on his heels. You could save a few people. You might end up sacrificing yourself, but you could save a few others in the process.
And this kind of goes with the fire department. I know in the fall they have operation and exit drills in the home. This is something that you can talk to your family about as well. It's you need to have a plan in place. Maybe it's not at school. Maybe it's at work. Workplaces should have an exit drill. If someone would come into the radio station, for example, there should be a protocol in place so that you know where to go, what door to go out, what door to lock, what are you going to grab, what are you going to do. It's planning ahead before that incident actually would happen.
Right.
And you know, there's a reason that law enforcement sits with their, you know, facing the door when they enter a restaurant or when they sit in a restaurant. Things that's being aware of your surroundings and being aware of, so if you go to a movie theater and you're sitting in that movie theater, you want to kind of say, okay, where's my exits? How am I going to get out of here? If you're at the mall, what happens if something happens at the mall? Well, you know, we saw a couple years ago a gentleman up in St. Cloud area do the stabbings at the mall. How am I going to get out of here? What's my fastest exit? How am I going to protect my children from this? So it's just being cognizant and being aware of your surroundings as well sometimes.
We're visiting with Freeborn County Emergency Management Director Rich Hall and Freeborn County Sheriff Kurt Freitag. We're going to take a quick break. We come back, we're going to talk more about active shooters here on Insights into Insurance.
When it comes to crop insurance, there is one thing Americana Insurance won't do. We won't come out to your place and shovel manure for you. But we will offer annual information seminars to keep you informed and annual insurance reviews to make sure you're covered. We'll provide crop insurance quotes that are easy to understand and hail, fire for crop, replant, and green snap insurance. But again, we won't shovel manure. On the other hand, you probably already met too many people who will. Americana Insurance. We're the A-Team. AmericanaInsurance.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Insurance on this Saturday morning. Mike Whitus along with Tom Sorensen and our special guest, Freeborn County Sheriff Kurt Freitag and Freeborn County Emergency Management Director Rich Hall. And we were talking about active shooters this morning. And I'm going to kind of go back to talking about what happens, Kurt, when law enforcement actually arrives on the scene. What do we do?
Well, when we first get the initial burst of phone calls, and we know there's going to be a bunch of them. We're going to be gathering all of the information that we're given through our people who are calling. They're going to be coming into our dispatch center. They're going to be relaying it to the deputies who are working, the Albert Lea officers who are working, and we're immediately going to be asking for mutual aid from all the surrounding areas. Fire is going to be notified, EMS is going to be notified. There's a lot of people who are going to be put on notice because this is going to be a huge event. So right off the bat, the first cars arriving at wherever the shooting is at, some of them are going to be arriving at the same time within seconds. But as soon as we can get a two-man team, a three-person team, whichever, they're going into school. And their goal is to find the threat and shoot the threat. And within seconds, minutes, there's going to be a rush of more law enforcement arriving on scene. Fire department's going to be arriving on scene. And then we go into our own training on how we respond to these. You know, first is we enter the building, we evaluate what we have going on, we evaluate the floor plan, where are the victims, how much of a safe area have we established inside the building, and then we start going into an evacuation mode where we get, you know, a portion of the building secured where we know it's free of any threat, and we can start getting wounded people evacuated from the building. And the further we go into the building, the more we're going to secure. And so it's a constant, you know, process of evaluating the scene, getting more people on scene into the building, and evacuating the wounded.
And we're talking about active shooters, and for those folks that maybe have been trapped in a building, trapped in an outdoor environment where you really don't know if it's one shooter, if it's two shooters, if it's three, you don't know. So I'm sure the adrenaline for those people that are involved are going to hear the police sirens, and they're going to think, boy, everything is okay, I'm going to get up. Really, that persons should remain where they're at until they actually see a uniformed officer, so that they don't get away from their hiding spot and all of a sudden they take off and there's more than one active shooter. There could be 3, 4. Right. The main thing is just to stay in place.
Yeah, stay in place, and when you get in communication range or eyesight of law enforcement or fire, you know, communication is huge. For the person who is, you know, in the environment and they're hunkered down and hiding and all that, follow the directions that law enforcement is giving you. If they tell you it's safe to come out, put your hands up so we can see that you have nothing, because law enforcement arrives on scene and sometimes we don't know who the shooter is, or we don't. They can just drop their weapon and blend in with the rest of the students and evacuate the building right along with the rest of the students. So we don't know. But if commands are given to, you know, exit at a specific direction, get your hands up, leave all your equipment. You don't need that, you know, your tote bag or books or anything. Leave all that. That can be gathered later. But just follow directions so that everything is done in a safe and kind of like an unconfused manner where law enforcement knows exactly what you're doing.
Try to be as orderly as possible.
There
but
you go.
The main thing is to stay in place until you have eyesight or you're getting a command from, maybe it is your teacher that's had communication with law enforcement. But main thing, you just stay in place until you know that everything is all clear. And as you mentioned, Kurt, you see on TV people leaving school situations with their hands up. That's very key, because like you say, that shooter or shooters could just blend right in with the people that are actually exiting the building.
Right.
Rich, let's talk a little bit about, there is training out there. Not only law enforcement does training, but there are other opportunities for training.
Yeah, absolutely, and really we've kind of taken a regional response to training. We know that it is going to be a regional response that happens. So recently, EMS, or Emergency Management from Southeast Minnesota region, got a grant and purchased training equipment, and we're putting on classes for law enforcement, fire, and EMS throughout southern Minnesota, along with our dispatch personnel and things. So let's say a dispatcher goes to our classes and things, and what are they going to learn? They're going to learn that which calls that they really need to pay attention to. Maybe it's the shooter's mother that's calling in, can give us some information as to who it is or who they think it is or who they feel it is. Incident command, how to take charge of a scene, and we're going to send law enforcement in with our firefighters or EMS, and they're going to start taking people out to a casualty collection point, so that we have the best chance of saving the ones that are savable.
A very interesting, very important topic this morning on our Insights into Insurance with Americana Insurance. I want to thank Rich Hall and Kurt Freitag, Tom Sorensen from Americana Insurance. We'll have another program on talking about shootings, recent shootings. We'll talk about permits to carry, permits to purchase, and we'll do that in another show here on our Saturday morning. But that'll wrap things up today for our Insights into Insurance with Americana Insurance here on Kate.
You've been listening to Insights into Insurance from Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is intended to be educational in nature. Before acting upon any information obtained during the Insights into Insurance radio show broadcast, consult an appropriately licensed professional.